When it comes to Brian Thompson's case, DB Cooper met Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in 2024, as this case is utterly fascinating. Back in 2021, Brian became CEO of United Healthcare, the insurance arm of United Health Group, which provides roughly around 50 million Americans with health insurance. Fast forward to December 4th, 2024, and here is everything that we now know about the suspected shooter. They believe that he travelled to New York City on a Greyhound bus 10 days before the killing took place. Now, the bus in which he got on started in Atlanta and made several stops on its way along to New York City. But it's not clear at this point as to when the perpetrator in this case actually boarded that bus. After his arrival, the suspect actually took a taxi to the New York Hilton Midtown. While there, he spent about 30 minutes walking around the area before taking a taxi to a hostel. At the hostel, he used a fake New Jersey identification and paid in cash for the room in which he was about to rent. And this is when he was captured on CCTV, smiling at a woman who worked behind the desk at the hostel. And this was the only time that he lowered his mask while he was there. He even managed to conceal his face during meals and didn't engage in conversation with anyone. He then checked out of the hotel on Friday the 29th of November. But it was an administrative checkout because he didn't report to a designated location, but then would again check back into the hostel on November the 30th. On December the 4th, he then departed the hostel at around about 5:30 a.m. and arrived at the Hilton Midtown at 5:41 a.m. with police then believing that he used an electric bike to make his trip at 6:15 a.m. He was then captured on video surveillance, leaving the 57th Street F train stop and entering a Starbucks. At 6:17 a.m, he then purchased a water bottle and 2 energy bars. At 6:19 a.m. on video surveillance again, he can be seen placing something in a massive pile of rubbish. Then at 6:30 a.m, the suspect was seen talking on his cell phone as he was walking along. A lot of people have used this to suggest that this could support some type of conspiracy theory. He could have been using his phone to speak to a loved one prior to knowing what it was that he was about to do, thinking that he was going to get caught. But he also too could have been getting some type of tip-off as to the location, as to the individual that he was looking for. Which also isn't realistically out of the question because CEOs don't usually arrive to their meetings so early. The individual in question, Brian Thompson, had suggested to his wife that he'd been receiving some type of threat. We don't know the indication or type of level of threat as to which and what he was receiving, but at the same time, this then took place right after he announced that to his partner. What's also strange is that the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company didn't have security at the time in which he was receiving threats. Moving on. The suspect then arrived at the Hilton Midtown at round about 6:39 a.m. 6 minutes later at 6:45 a.m, using a 9mm pistol with a suppressor, the assailant shot and killed Brian Thompson on West 54th Street right next to the Hilton Midtown. Now, the killer waited for Brian to walk by before moving out from behind a vehicle to take the shots. During the shooting, the weapon actually appeared to malfunction and the killer can be seen pulling the slide back and hitting it to try and correct the malfunction. After the shooting, the killer just simply crossed the street and calmly made his getaway. The gunman fled north through an alley leading to 55th Street and made his way east to 6th Avenue and somehow obtained an electric bicycle. He then rode north on 6th Avenue, entering Central Park on Center Drive at 6:48 a.m. So in just that 2-minute gap in which the police arrived, the assailant was actually quite far away from the scene of the crime. Just 8 minutes later, at 6:56 a.m, the killer was seen exiting Central Park. He was then seen again just 2 minutes later on the bicycle on 85th Street and Columbus Avenue. But by 7 a.m, the suspect was seen and spotted walking along 86th Street without the electric bicycle. At 7:04 a.m, the suspect took a taxi from 86th Street and Amsterdam Avenue to George Washington Bridge bus station, which is operated by the Port Authority and has interstate buses. The killer was then seen entering at roughly around 7:30 a.m. But he was never seen to have come back out, so police believe that he took a bus bound to Atlanta. Now, the physical evidence that's been recovered so far is interesting. At the scene of the shooting, investigators found 3 intact 9mm cartridges, as well as 3 spent cases. And those cases had the words deny, defend, oppose written on them, which is similar to a common phrase associated with insurance companies, which is delay, deny, defend. A cell phone and a water bottle were recovered from an alleyway. This was between West 54th Street and West 55th Street. Now, police believe that these two items belong to the killer, and investigators have indicated that they have recovered DNA left by the killer, but have also not indicated where it was taken from. Then, on December the 6th, they believe that they found a bag that belonged to the killer during the incident, and he kind of took the piss a bit with this one. The bag itself was found in Central Park and contained a Tommy Hilfiger jacket as well as Monopoly money. The electric bike in which the individual used after the killing took place has also not been found. Now, here are some really interesting parts about the case that just stand out. There's plenty of evidence that's been recovered, like video surveillance, DNA, a cell phone, a water bottle, cartridges, and spent cases. They also discovered how he travelled to and from New York City. They also managed to track down the location in which he stayed at, as well as the backpack in which he was wearing when the crime took place. Now, at the time of this video, the murder weapon has not been found, neither has the suspect been identified. So far, the police have basically said that they don't want him to know that they know that they're onto him. That old chestnut. So they basically want him to continue as he is so that they can follow the path in which he's taking to apprehend him later on. But have also given out $10,000 as a reward for any tips about the location of the suspect, as well as information leading to an arrest. Which usually for a police force rather confident in finding an individual, seeing as they believe they know who the suspect is rather strange. As usually in that type of scenario, when they're offering money as a reward for information leading to an arrest, they themselves are pretty stuck. Now, although the killer in Brian Thompson's case made a lot of mistakes, he was also very cautious. And ironically, a lot of the things that he did actually counteract one another. And if this killer isn't apprehended, this will become a bigger mystery than DB Cooper's. With the area in which the murder took place being such a busy area, and as well as the timing in which it took place, whereas police officers in the area are going to the end of their shift, this almost allowed the perpetrator, like the Joker, to just slip away in broad daylight, using both his mask and the chaotic structure of a busy city. But to go into more detail regarding the cautious nature and mistakes in which the suspect took regarding this crime, be sure to follow for a part 2. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below.